What's going on, guys? Enzo here from Enzos Geckos. Today I'm going to be showing you my pet-only gecko. She is the last leopard gecko I have because I've sold the rest of them, but she's my pet and I'm probably going to keep her. I'm thinking of also getting rid of this rack and getting a new enclosure for her. So anyway, let's take a look at her. Alright guys, here she is. She is a beautiful little gecko, and I'm going to take her out and show her to you guys. This is actually the first one that hatched this season, and I named her Hope because well, I was a little bit worried that she wasn't going to make it. She didn't look too good when she first hatched, and I was really worried about her, and she honestly didn't move or do much for like the first day, but then she started to eat after a while and grow. But I'm really glad she made it because she's a beautiful gecko. And let's see, her hatch date was May 14th, so that makes her right now around 6 months old. She'll be 7 months old in December. And yeah, she's just a super cool little gecko. Now, sometimes I get asked, "Oh, Enzo, should I buy this gecko? It might have has a couple missing toes," or "Oh, Enzo, should I sell this gecko as a breeder, or should I sell it as a pet? It has a weird tail, has a kinked back, or whatever." And honestly, I think you need to make that choice yourself if you want to sell it as a pet or if you want to sell it as a breeder. Honestly, I would not feel comfortable selling her as a breeder because a few reasons. One, she does have a little tail kink right here. She does have a little tail kink right there. So her tail's a little bit bent, so I don't know if that'll pass down genetically. I don't know if she were to have hatchling baby geckos that they would inherit that tail kink or have something like that going on. But also she had a really slow start, and just because she started slow, she might not be the best choice of genetics to be passing down to the next generation. So for that reason, I would sell her as a pet. But if she was just missing a couple toes, that's something that you could definitely still breed her because it's not a genetic thing. It's just that when she was little and she had a hard time shedding, she wasn't able to get the stuck shed off of her toes. So they did unfortunately fall off. Just a few of them though. She's only missing 2 on her back left foot, and it's just the tip of her toe. It's not her entire toe. Other than that though, she still has all her little claws, and she is doing just fine. So anyway, when you're deciding if you should sell your leopard gecko as a pet or as a breeder, if you are a breeder and it hatches out with some kind of deformity like a little tail kink, sometimes they could have back kinks or like cleft lips, I would honestly not do that. If it's something genetic that the gecko is born with that makes them that way, such as if it's genetic and they're born starting slowly, or they're born and they have a really hard time eating, or maybe they have a calcium deficiency, I don't think that you should breed them just because the odds of that passing down to the children is there. If there is a gecko that is completely healthy and in fine health and has no genetic issues, you would probably feel comfortable breeding it because they don't have anything to pass down that you can see, and you're not stopping anything from passing down by not breeding that gecko. However, if you have a gecko that has a genetic problem like a tail kink or a back kink, or has metabolic bone disease, that's probably going to pass down to the baby. And if it has some kind of other disease like that you don't want your hatchlings getting, because otherwise why bring an animal into this world that is already going to be suffering and already be having a hard time. So that's why I think it's best to just make sure you're bringing in the healthiest, best animals you can. Another thing that happens sometimes when you need to sell a gecko as a pet is if you've been inbreeding your geckos too much. And you can tell a gecko's been inbred if it has a really short tail. Hope right here has a fine length tail. It's definitely not too short to worry about. But I do see some people posting pictures of their geckos that have really, really short little tails. And that is one sign of a gecko being inbred, and you definitely don't want that when you're going to be selling or buying. You should not be selling inbred geckos or buying inbred geckos with the intent to breed them, because obviously their genetics are too closely related, and those genetic problems like shortened tails or smaller eyes, different sized eyes, or stuff like white and yellow syndrome can happen from inbreeding too many white and yellows. So with that being said, when you're considering buying a gecko, you should definitely make sure it doesn't have anything that is a genetic problem, such as metabolic bone disease. A breeder would have to be a pretty bad breeder to actually not disclose that or not tell you anything like that and try and sell you a sick animal like that. But it's really best to just buy a gecko that looks like it's great. Sometimes a gecko has a dropped tail, or a gecko has, like this girl right here, she's got some missing toes, but that's totally fine. That's something that happened to them while they were healthy. And if the gecko looks healthy otherwise, a dropped tail that's regrown or a couple missing toenails from bad sheds is not the end of the world for the gecko, and it will definitely doesn't affect its overall health, and it won't affect the health of the babies, which is the most important part. And it doesn't affect the health of the babies, which is the most important part. And then on the other side, when you're selling geckos, you should always be on the safe side by petting geckos out. And petting a gecko out, when you say, oh, I'm going to pet out this gecko, that means instead of selling it as a breeder, as you would for its market price, you're going to sell it as a pet for maybe $25, $50, or free shipping, or a gecko, you know, with free shipping, or you just say, oh, just pay the price of shipping and I'll send you this gecko, or whatever. Because the idea is, in my opinion, that if you're in the hobby, you've got geckos, you've got a gecko that you don't think should be bred because of one little problem that it might have by passing its genetics down to a baby, you may as well give somebody a gecko of their dreams, or a gecko that they would really like, for free or for a really good price. And I think that's just important in my opinion. But as a breeder, honesty is very important, and if you aren't honest and you start selling sick geckos or geckos with genetic problems to other people, it'll definitely catch up to you and bite you in the butt later down the road. You might get away with it for a couple years, but people will find out eventually, and it will not be good for you and your reputation. Anyway, just make sure that you're being honest with the geckos you're producing. If there seems to be some kind of genetic problem, some kind of white and yellow syndrome or whatever with them, definitely just sell it as a pet, sell it locally, do whatever you need to do to make sure those genetics don't keep on going and don't keep on producing geckos that are suffering. So anyway, Hope is doing fine right now, and I'm definitely going to be keeping her for a while. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video about pet leopard geckos and what to do with pet leopard geckos when you're buying and selling in the leopard gecko breeder world. So thank you guys once again, and I will see you next time. Also, please leave some comments about video ideas. I'd really like to know what you guys want to see from my channel. I still have my Eublepharis hard wiki and this leopard gecko right here, Hope. So both of those two girls are available to be in my videos, so let me know if you guys want to learn more about hard wikis or leopard geckos, or if you want to learn more about genetics or anything that I can teach you and share my experiences from breeding leopard geckos. But just comment below what you want to see, and I will see you guys next time.